Now available in paperback and e-readers. E-Steam Horror of a Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of a Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers. E-Steam Blast from the Past. Hell's aspiring angel takes on her demonic doppelganger in this action-packed, time-traveling E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Blast from the Past with a bonus E-Steam comic book, No Good Deed, in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. DC Comics is going to cancel John Kent's Superman book, Superman, the Son of Kal-El, with issue number 18. Now, your Superman, the Son of Kal-El was supposed to be the book that was supposed to be about the adventures of Superman's son, John Kent, who was supposed to be the first bisexual Superman. And ever since DC Comics announced that John Kent was the first bisexual Superman, sadly, the book's sales never recovered. Originally, this book started out very strong with 60,000 sales units for issue number 1, but over the course of the last 17 months, the sales have dropped precipitously with each passing month, and the book barely has an audience at this point. However, what your DC Comics is planning to do with your Superman, the Son of Kal-El, is not to change the direction of the book. No, they're going to keep the same creative team with Tom Taylor continuing to do the writing, but they're only going to change the title as part of a new direction for all of the Superman family books, which is supposed to be starting in January. Now, the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And sadly, in today's modern comic book industry, many comic publishers and creators continue to apply the same approaches and then expect to continue to get the blockbuster sales. Unfortunately, in the case of Superman, John Kent, he has not really caught on with readers in spite of being incredibly popular when he was considered to be a younger child. Now, one of the things that wound up alienating a lot of comic fans from John Kent was a storyline done by Brian Michael Bendis, where he decided to take the young 10-year-old John Kent and he decided to age him up to about 17 or 18 years old. And the character never really recovered from being aged up as a result of that storyline, and then this was compounded by the decision by Warner Brothers at the time to allow Super John Kent to be turned into a bisexual character. And then when they tried to launch the Superman Son of Kal-El book and decided to make his revelation of being bisexual come out to the public, this is what led to many comic fans who were fans of John Kent not wanting to go out here and read the adventures of the character anymore. These rapid character changes that did not come from an organic fashion wound up alienating lots of readers, and the John Kent character went from a fan favorite character to a character whose books wind up rotting on comic store shelves all across the country. And what's really sad here about the whole state of John Kent is that your DC Comics still continues to try to relaunch the character with the same creative team and the same creative approaches, not looking at how this book is just not selling. Now, many in the comic book world complain about social justice warriors who go out here and want to put agenda over story and agenda over sales. And many say that these people want to go out here and focus heavily on their messages. Unfortunately, they don't really connect the dots and critically think and wonder, is anybody reaching your message if nobody's buying the book? Yes, your Superman Son of Kal-El generates a lot of controversy with clickbait articles on places like Comic Book Resources and Bleeding Cool, but that does not generate sales for a comic book. No, what generates sales for a comic book are compelling storylines where we see the hero overcoming the villains and antagonists in his rogues gallery. And sadly, John Kent, over the last couple of years, has not really spent the time having a rogues gallery developed for him by Tom Taylor, and he has not really built up any sort of adversarial relationships or feuds that will make us care about him as a character. And that's a big problem with your John Kent overall, is that he's not really been fleshed out and developed as a character in his own book that makes him look distinct. I mean, if we compare him to the 1990s series Superboy, the Connor Kent character was far better developed because he had a very charismatic personality. He had a voice as a character. He had a sense of humor, and he had a sense of style. But the John Kent character has not been given any of those things to make him distinct. Yes, he is the son of Superman, but he has not gone out here and made himself stand out as a character. And that the reason why he has not been able to stand out as a character is because of editorial not checking people like Brian Michael Bendis, who went out here and aged up the character because he didn't know what to do with the character because he's an inept writer. And because he was an inept writer, he went out here and used a gimmick of trying to age up John Kent to make him a teenager because he didn't know how to write a 10-year-old kid who every kid could have related to and wanted to connect with, but he didn't know how to do that, so he went out here and did the old Days of Our Lives soap opera gimmick of aging up the character in the hopes of making him appealing. But that Flash didn't have any substance because then nobody took the time to develop John Kent's rogues gallery to make him to show how he was going to fight for truth and justice in a completely different way than his father. That was the big problem with John Kent before they decided to change his sexual orientation. He really was not fully developed as a character, and he really wasn't supposed to be fully developed because what made the character great under Dan Jurgens and Peter Tomasi was the fact that John Kent was a kid, and we were going to grow up with him the same way we grew up with Dick Grayson as Robin. That was the selling point for John Kent and Damian Wayne, was the fact that a new generation of kids were going to be able to grow up with John Kent and Damian Wayne. But sadly, all of that got derailed by bad editorial because the editors at DC Comics really don't understand what it takes to give a character a sense of direction or to keep a character on a course as that character transitions from creative team to creative team. Because a good editor-in-chief would have said, no, John Kent is going to stay 10 years old for at least a good decade or so. We're going to let the audience grow up with this character. We're going to let the audience experience this character going through his changes, through puberty. We're going to see him experience his first girlfriend. We're going to see him experience his first relationships, and we're going to get to know him as a person. We're going to get to know him as a character, and we're going to see him build up his own rogues gallery the same way Dick Grayson built up his rogues gallery at the side of Batman with characters like Crazy Quilt, Two-Face, and then as he transitioned into Nightwing, he had Deathstroke and the Teen Titans and many other villains. We got to see him grow as a hero, developing different skills and abilities. And we wanted to see this happen with John Kent as related to him being the son of Superman and him having different intergalactic adventures and seeing a richer and broader Superman world, which was something we got to see with Dan Jurgens and Peter Tomasi. They basically breathed brand new life into the Superman books and had them just as fresh as they were in the 90s. But what happened here was, again, DC's bad editorial came in and decided to, again, age up John Kent. And now we're stuck with a character who DC doesn't really know what to do outside of his sexual orientation. I mean, there's nothing really there of substance with John Kent these days. Again, he's just a teenage Superman, but he has no voice, no personality, and he's not distinct. And that's the big problem with this Son of Kal-El. Again, you can relaunch the book, but if it's got the same premise, you're going to get the same results. And again, in today's modern comic book industry, doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result, this is the insanity that we live in currently. And this is the same type of insanity that had over at Marvel Comics has gotten us at least about 8 or 9 relaunches of Captain Marvel, 8 or 9 relaunches of Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and many of these comic publishers thinking that they can try to ram their message down people's throats, but you can't ram a message down people's throats about a certain character or push a certain character if the people aren't buying that book. If people aren't buying that book, you can relaunch it 100 times, and if the customers aren't buying it, then nobody's hearing your message as related to those characters. That is something many in the comic book industry don't understand, that publishers like myself understand. I understand that I can write a story 100 different ways, but if the customers aren't interested in that book, I'm just throwing good money after bad on these characters, and that's what's happening here in the case of your John Kent Superman. DC Comics is doing the same thing that Marvel Comics did with Captain Marvel, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, your Sam Wilson Captain America, and many other all new, all different, diverse characters. What happened with most of those characters is, yes, Marvel poured money into paying for the pages of the comic art, paying for the pages of those comic scripts, but those books wound up rotting on shelves because the customers weren't buying them. And if the customers aren't buying them, then the message that you're trying to push in those books isn't going to resonate with anyone. And it's not going to resonate with anyone because it doesn't answer a critical question a screenwriter and a comic book writer like myself has to answer before we put fingers to the keyboard. And that question we have to answer is, why should we care? And it's hard to care about John Kent when Kal-El does everything that your John Kent does and does it better in a Superman comic book. That's what many at DC Comics don't understand, but it's something I understand as a publisher. I understand that if a character is doing something well in one book, then I can't sell another book with a different premise featuring a character who has similar powers, because that's going to make it redundant. So that's what many in the comic book industry don't understand about these, what they call SJW books, like Superman, Son of Kal-El, your Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, your Captain Marvel, your Sam Wilson, Captain America, and many other books. They don't understand that what makes a book sell is that the readers care about the character, the readers care about the story, and people stop having a reason to care about John Kent, because instead of us focusing on him and his selling point, which was watching a son of Superman grow up to become like his dad. What we got was a character who was aged up and then turned into a social justice avatar and used to push identity politics, and that alienated most comic fans from this character. And as the sales dropped precipitously on his book over 17 months, we're going to see another precipitous drop, because if it's the same story, you're going to get the same results. I mean, you might get a little boost from a #1 issue, but even in this case, I don't really see it doing that well, because people just don't like the way the character is written. And again, that's not about the readers being so-called homophobes. It's about the readers who were introduced to this character, formed a relationship with this character, and then had that relationship taken from them, and then had another premise pushed on them. That's what really alienated all of the readers from the current John Kemp that is presented in these comics, and that is what made many comic fans not want to read the adventures of this version of John Kemp. But this could all easily be reversed by one good writer like myself, by just saying that this teenage Superman, son of Kal-El, this John Kent that's out here, was basically one of these androids or a clone made by Darkseid, and that the real 10-year-old John Kemp is on Apocalypse. Again, easy reversal and something that can easily be retconned, and you can go out here and then launch an actual Super Sons series, which is what people actually want and would go out here and buy. People would love to go out here and see John and Damian back again, and that book actually was selling exceptionally well during the Jurgens and Tomasi era, and was one of the better selling books at DC Comics until Bendis came along and wanted to change directions of the character. But all of this, again, could easily be reversed and get DC back to having a top-selling title, but all they have to do is just say, okay, that this teenage Superman, which is not selling, this was something that Darkseid came up with, and he wanted to tarnish the House of L's name, and they wanted to do that in a way that prevented your Kal-El from having a legacy. I mean, there's a great storyline there, and a very compelling one, but DC has to have the backbone and the stones to go out here and reverse that story. And again, that's all about DC wanting to go out here and tell great stories. Now, this may offend some of those people in the alphabet community who wanted to have their own character, but there's a way to, again, salvage that teenage John Kemp. You give him another name, and then you have him out here, and he can be the rainbow superhero that he could go out here and be. He could be his own unique character with his own unique mission. That could be, again, the way they could salvage that character, but it would take somebody at DC to have the backbone and the stones to go out here and put together that kind of storyline, and that's what DC would have to do, because at this point, going out here and relaunching a character that no readers want to buy, that's just a losing proposition. And again, it's a losing proposition because this character is not selling right now, and relaunching the book won't help it sell. In fact, all you're doing, again, is throwing good money after bad and paying creative teams to go out here and create books that no one is going out here and reading right now, and won't be reading in January when you try to relaunch the book. Now, my first comic, Esteem No Good Deed, is now available on Kindle for 99 cents, and I have another comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, which I'm trying to get to sell after doing a Kickstarter. So I have comics out here right now, and again, you can try out Esteem No Good Deed for 99 cents on Amazon.com. And if you want to try out some of my action-packed fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, and other books that I've done, like the vampire novel Eternal Night, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.